Like I've got green on everything. We are. Hey, good morning, everybody. We're live, and I've got Mario with us for Firearms Friday. First things first, a little bit of house cleaning. We didn't have a show yesterday. It was, and I'm going to throw them under the bus a little bit because I pay them money for this. Rumble dropped the balls. Apparently, service for everybody live streaming was out on Rumble yesterday morning until about noon, I guess. I'm not sure when service was actually restored, but it was after noon that I finally got a message from Rumble tech support that the service had been corrected and restored.
Well, I had assumed that it was after a 2-hour and 45-minute show the previous day. Rumble decided, you've had enough cookies. Now put the jar down and go sit.
The bartender came over and said, "Boys, you're cut off.
Yeah, go back to your room, please. Thank you.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." In other news, Mario, it's not as cold today as it was yesterday. It's pretty damn cold. But you recognize these?
Ooh, he's got his throw. I never wore that stuff because I never
got my waffles on.
Waffle, yep.
I end up wearing these for about a week every year. I mean, over the course of a week every year. I'm not like sewn into my underwear like some penitent parishioner or something.
Yeah, I never wore them because too many soldiers wore that shit when they didn't need it. Okay, and for me, it basically. It came with a sense of shame if you were wearing that.
Yeah, I lived in Maine for a while. I know when it's time to break out the thermals.
Yeah, but when you see like a fat female soldier wearing thermals when it's like 50 degrees outside, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe you just need to out process. Maybe you're done here. I don't know.
Either take your article and go home in shame, or hey, come get an ice cream with us. Little HFT do you good.
Yep. Yeah, the only part of me that actually gets really cold is my hands from a previous frostbite injury, right? So back in the Army, no matter how cold it was, if we went for a run, I did not want to wear any of the additional Army physical fitness uniform gear. I was perfectly content in shorts and a t-shirt in 30-degree weather, just as long. But I would have ski gloves. So short t-shirt, ski gloves.
I actually remember that.
See me running, chugging along, and just seeing steam pour off my body like a choo-choo train. Anyway,
I actually remember that. So we've got a couple of stories that I want to cover this morning before we get to DGUs, and frankly, we're a little thin on DGUs this week, which is easy to explain. I mean, it's the weather. Like, we didn't see the kind of riots around the inauguration that we saw the first time Trump was inaugurated because of the polar vortex. Because if it's at all inconvenient or uncomfortable, leftists don't do it. You like drizzle, and they'll shut down Occupy Wall Street for a couple of days. It really is that simple.
And I guarantee the big money men who finance Antifa, okay, and their cohorts. Pretty much decided that it just ain't worth the money this time. So
yeah,
checks never cleared. No riot. Sorry.
Right. A lot of that world right now has got to be wondering how they can get a refund out of some of these rioters because they lost the plot. So got a couple of stories I want to cover, and I'm gonna. What order do I do these in? One of these is one that Cameron wants to talk about. I'm going to bring it up now, and if Cameron's available next Friday, we might talk about it again. It's not that there's any movement on the case, but there needs to be. So we covered this one before, right? This is the story of Mr. Dexter Taylor, who's this, quiet, nerdy-looking young software engineer, right? Black guy living in New York and Brooklyn. And during COVID, apparently part of the story is he became concerned about personal defense and Second Amendment stuff, but as he tells it, more importantly, he needed a hobby while he was locked down at home. So during COVID, apparently, because he's a software engineer, he was able to work from home instead of just losing his job. and started making guns. Right, he started ordering parts, ordered CNC machines, and all the reloading equipment. He was loading his own ammo, and custom machining, making guns basically from base parts, not just ordering parts and assembling them, but actually building the parts. Patrick says, "Where's the show?" We're live.
It's right here, and this is like in New York City proper, right? Like he's in the city limits of New York.
Brooklyn.
Okay, gotcha.
And so he was he got busted, and he was charged with the possession of unregistered firearms. And of course, because the ATF and gun laws are the level of insane that they are. Okay. You do not hate this government enough. Okay, we got Donald Trump. He's doing some great stuff. We're going to talk about some of that great stuff a little bit more in just a second. But the entrenched bureaucracy, and the next story we're going to talk about also relates to the ATF, and I'm going to tie these two together a little bit, because the ATF as an organization should not exist. I've said it before, and I've said it again. There's a lot of pundits out there, and there are some elected officials. There is a bill going up right now to abolish the ATF, and that should happen. So there's plenty of people out there who will tell you that the ATF should not exist, that it's an unconstitutional organization. I will take that a step further.
Well,
the existence of the ATF is such a repugnant violation of the Constitution that your membership, your employment, if you are associated with the ATF professionally, you are a criminal, and you're not committing an error. You're not committing an act where negligence is the bar to entry. No, you are committing a crime with premeditation and malice aforethought. You are a criminal. You are an enemy of the United States of America, and you deserve to suffer the wrath of an actual law enforcement agency because you are in violation of the law. The ATF is probably, God, I hope, the largest U.S. government-funded insurrection in operation today.
Well, if there was ever a time when the ATF could be disbanded, I'd say it would be right now. I mean, in the last few days, I've seen things happen that I never thought would be possible in America. Through some of Trump's executive orders. I mean, we'll see how it plays out in court. Hopefully, the majority of it actually becomes reality. But yeah, if there was ever a time, it's right now. Washington D.C. is in full shakeup mode, and a lot of people are panicking.
So Cameron wants us to talk about Dexter Taylor, and he wants us to keep talking about him, and I agree. So it is not the case that there was any movement on this. Rather, Donald Trump just pardoned a shitload of people. This is a good one. This would be a good one. Now, unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that this is, I talked to Cameron about this at some length yesterday. And like I said before, we covered this story previously. And what the judge says in this case is just amazingly egregious. She belongs in prison for the statement she made under the circumstances she made it. That's not an attack on her First Amendment right. That's an attack on her oath to conduct herself. And I'll get to that in a second. But Trump can't pardon this guy because it's state charges. But Donald Trump and the Supreme Court can put pressure on, move league lawsuits, and get this in front of the Supreme Court, or just put pressure on the state of New York and New York City to pardon this guy. Not commute a sentence. No, you get him out of there and you pardon him. You wipe that record clean. He never committed a crime. Because, just like what I was saying about the ATF being criminals, the police officers that arrested this man are criminals. They committed a crime. And if you're a police officer, if you are in law enforcement and you arrest somebody over gun charges, same. You're a criminal. You raised your hand. You swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. Implicit in that swearing is the statement, the assumption that you understand what the Constitution is, what is in the Constitution. If you've sworn an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and then as a law enforcement officer, you arrest somebody over a gun charge, you have just committed an act of willful malice, premeditated crime. Right? That's something that we need to be after. We need to be dealing with that shit. So in this particular case, like I already laid it out, he bought the parts, he was building guns. Excuse me. That was terrible. I started to reach for the cough button as I was trying to lean away from the mic, and I found myself too far away.
Can I briefly comment about policing real quick?
Yeah.
So nobody wants police who are mindless robots who just do whatever they're told, or follow blindly what it says on a piece of paper. Okay, nobody wants that. What people would like to see in police is some policing discretion. Okay, taking into account the situation as they see it. All right. For example, someone important to me was recently arrested for basically drug paraphernalia. Okay, they were driving a car that they borrowed. Okay, from someone who does do drugs. Right. The police pulled them over, and they did like a swab check to check for narcotics, and it was determined that someone had been smoking crack in that car. Now it wasn't my friend, but the owner of the car was, and now this person got a violation of probation simply for being in a vehicle that somebody did drugs in, and is now sitting in jail. Okay, this is like mindless adherence to laws that are inflexible and don't take into account the situation at hand. And it's very frustrating dealing with this shit when police are excessive, okay, in meting out exactly what it says in whatever statute. Okay, what it turns out to be is terrorism against poor people. All right, it's terrorism against the poor, because if you arrest someone for some minor bullshit, and then they get a violation of probation added to that, then you've just increased the financial burden on them, having to pay fines and fees, and like we say, the process is the punishment. It's really excessive, and it really weighs heavily on poor people, and it's very disappointing. I wish all cops were like Cameron's late father, God rest his soul, Papa Sheepdog, where their mentality when they go out into the public is to try to help people. Okay, not to be some ruthless hall monitor. Okay, like meting out punishment against the people who can least afford to be held up, okay, or denied the ability to work by what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But just want to get that off my chest. I don't like police. All right, I really don't. I avoid them whenever possible, and I never talk to them.
I've said on the show many times before, for the average cop, I look at him and I say, you know what? I put up my hand. I swore to uphold and defend the Constitution. I deployed, closed with, engaged, destroyed the enemies of the United States of America. You sit in a car and write harassment level revenue collection tickets to law-abiding citizens, and ruin their days and sometimes their lives.
Yeah, your job is not to financially brutalize poor people who, by mere fact that they're poor, have to live in neighborhoods that have a high crime rate. Okay, and then
I would say, Mario, you shouldn't be friends with the kind of people that use crack cocaine, but I mean, I know you. And I know I know you have friends. I was going to say, you shouldn't even be friends with the kind of people who are friends with the kind of people who use crack cocaine. But I have friends.
Let's just say, Mario after the Army is way more hood, okay, than Mario before the Army. Okay.
Well, and Mario, believe it or not, I've got more than a few friends that are dramatically further down that road than you will ever be if you put an effort into it. But that just is what it is. Okay, so let me get to the most egregious part of this.
I'm wearing tracksuits now. You know what I mean? I'm ready. Hey yo, T, put me in. Yo.
I'm actually wearing pajama pants with beer mugs on them. Many of you will recognize them as my beer pants from Steve Fest. But according to Taylor's attorney, the judge in the case instructed them at one point, don't bring up the Second Amendment in this courtroom, telling them it doesn't exist here, so you can't argue Second Amendment. This is New York. That's the line right there. As soon as she said those words.
Wow.
As soon as Darky said these words, she should have been disbarred, disrobed, and incarcerated.
Deported.
So, and apparently Darky started her whole thing off with a tirade whining about when they were opening up the sentencing hearing. She started off with this tirade about people mocking her on social media. And you know what? You deserve it, bitch.
If you're in a position where you're there to, mete out sentences and authority over people, you probably shouldn't be thin-skinned. That should be a disqualifier to being a judge.
Right.
Like,
and I know
which means that no female judges. There. Can we just do that? Okay.
I could actually agree to that. And Mario, I know you probably heard me say Darky and got a little excited about the direction the show was going, but this is in fact her name, Darkeh.
Darkness.
But yeah, that right there is enough. The Second Amendment. Do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Oh, that's unacceptable. So
it's going to take
we'll be talking about that.
It's going to take a generation to get people like this out of their positions. Okay. The effects.
So we'll be talking about that case and taking it to X and talking about it on there, and trying to make appeals to whoever we can to try and get Dexter out of jail, because he doesn't belong there.
Mm-hmm. But
so let me get to the next one. We talked a lot this week about all the winning, and one of the great things Donald Trump did is just essentially murdered DEI with a pen stroke. Is furloughing, or not furlough. He put all the DEI department employees on paid leave, which I thought was unfortunately merciful of him.
Yeah. Have you heard about the cover-ups? So for a lot of federal governmental agencies.
Yep, that's exactly what we're talking about.
If you go look up their DEI, their like diversity, equity, inclusion mission statement, whatever, there's usually a page devoted to that. They're coming up 404 file not found. Okay, and you're also seeing some people who were DEI employees getting their job position renamed to something else, like going from chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer to just executive officer, kind of like a blanket, blanket.
So like I've got this from bearingarms.com. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's in particular, the ATF is doing. ATF reportedly ignoring Trump's DEI executive order. President Donald Trump has been busy here in the first week back in office. Executive orders are fast and furious. Many aren't really being noticed, while others have made massive splash. For example, Trump ordered all federal DEI employees to be put on administrative leave. The goal is ultimately to terminate them. What does this have to do with guns, gun rights, gun control? Well, Okay. So now there are two approaches. One is to do as directed and put these folks on paid administrative leave as the president directed. The other is what it looks like the ATF has decided to do, which is to change someone's title so they wouldn't be impacted by the executive order.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this isn't her being slid into an open position. Note what it says under her title in the most recent screenshot. So I'll have to go back. It says Office of the Director.
Yeah.
So they changed her from the Chief Diversity Officer. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me bring it up as a graphic so we can see it better.
Yep.
They changed her from Chief Diversity Officer, Office of the Director, and 2 days later she's the Senior Executive.
Yeah. This is actually
Office
the exact example I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is happening in the ATF, and it's happening in other federal agencies. That is, I mean, that's insane. Did you see, Mario, did you see the clip out of O'Keefe Media that just came out? I think it was yesterday. They got this White House staffer talking about how they plan on how the deep state, and he's talking about specific people and people in specific positions. And I hope to God that Trump just goes on an absolute rampage and fires everybody. That's the correct answer. Fire everybody. But basically the staffer's explaining to the hot chick that O'Keefe hired to date him, oh yeah, we're gonna stall everything. So like RFK Jr., right? Like he's probably the worst person we could have for HHR, whatever, Health and Human Services, HHS.
Right.
And so what you do, right, you can stall them in a whole bunch of ways. What a good way to stall guys like that is you create fake commissions. You're just like, oh yeah. We're gonna establish a commission to study the ill health effects of fluoride in the water, and we'll get back to you with a report on our findings. And then you run the commission. You just keep doing the study until that guy gets replaced, until the new president comes in and appoints a new HHS secretary. Right. And that is what the bureaucracy is, and that is the kind of shit that we've been talking about for years when we refer to the deep state. Right? I won't go all the way down the rabbit hole, but just the quick and easy. When people hear you say deep state and don't understand what you're talking about, the kind of people who think that the idea of the deep state is like MK Ultra before 2000, where most people thought that, oh, that's just crazy conspiracy theory stuff that never happened.
Yep.
They think what you're saying when you say deep state is that there's like, it's the reptilians, or it's the Jews, or it's the secret Nazis, or there's a secret organization controlling the government.
Or but that's Smoking Man. Or it's Smoking Man for the X-Files.
It's the Smoking Man or the Slender Man, right? But that's not what you're talking about. That's not what we're talking about when we say the deep state. We are explicitly talking about unelected bureaucrats who until very recently had the protection of Chevron deference so that they could essentially act as legislatures unto themselves within the context and theoretical confines of their individual agencies. Now, thankfully, Chevron deference is gone, which is going to help a lot with retarding the abuses of the ATF, the FBI, et cetera. But
assuming the IG does their job, assuming the IG does their job, like in these various organizations, yes, it will have an effect. But yeah, the deep state, it's nothing exciting. Like, we're talking about some of the most painfully mundane and average people like you've ever met. All right, just government stooges. All right, people with a lanyard and a security badge on them. Okay, going to work and basically counting beans. Useless people.
Yeah, the kind of people who can walk around with a clipboard all day and do nothing.
Yeah,
but then they get to put their thumb on the scale and essentially make law. Right. A good example of this happening was the pistol brace debacle with the ATF. The ATF decided to change the rules on pistol braces and make it a felony to own a pistol brace. I'm sorry. Are you a legislative body? Do you write law? So suddenly you think you can just create law? No. I don't care if you're Justice John Roberts in the Obergefell decision, or if you're the ATF in the pistol brace decision. You are not the Congress. You are not the legislature. You are not empowered with the enumerated authorities to craft and write law. And And let's pretend for a moment like they were. Okay, let's for just a moment let's go ahead and assume that those agencies did in fact have the same authority as the legislature to write laws. Do you see the other problem with that?
What?
So just a little mental exercise for you, Mario. Let's just assume for a moment that these agencies that are essentially writing laws in this way that I've just said are not the legislature, do not have the authority to craft and write laws. Let's assume for a moment that they do have that authority, and they have that authority in exactly the same potency and measure as the actual legislature.
Then why have a legislature?
So you've got the ATF and the like just deciding, okay, this is the law now. Do you see what's missing from the equation?
There's no executive?
Exactly. Even when the legislature crafts and write laws, they still have to go to the president to be signed.
Right.
Right. So the reason I bring that up is with something like the pistol brace scandal, that was the legislature not just subverting the authority and the power of, or I'm sorry, that was the ATF, not merely subverting the power and authority of the legislature, but also assuming the power and authority of the president of the United States.
Yeah, it's Leviathan. Okay, and that's the way the government would like it to be. The government itself, right? Career politicians as well, but career bureaucrats, right? The SES, Senior Executive Service, and I believe yesterday I heard that the Senior Executive Service, which is people GS 16 and above, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're subject to a 90-day performance review, and after which they can be terminated, which is what's needed to be done for a long time, a significant force reduction in just the sheer number of people with high level authorities, all right, working within agencies. So
yeah, I would have a very difficult time looking at the SES guys and finding a good reason not to fire any one of them.
Right. But the way they would like things to be is where whoever's president, okay, whatever administration is in place, they would rather that just be like window dressing to keep the plebs happy and make them think that they won something. You know what I mean? While they just go, while they quietly go about their work, implementing tyranny, one mundane bullet point at a time. Like I said, some of the least interesting people you'll ever meet. I don't know what it is. I lived just outside of DC for 3.5 years, and I worked for several agencies. Okay, and when you give someone that lanyard, right, with an access card on it, some people it changes them. They actually think they're a big deal, and but you're not. You're just gonna finish up your time in service, and then try to get an equally uninteresting low-level flunky job at like Booz Allen Hamilton, and then you're going to be the type of person who gets rolled up in obvious honeypots by James O'Keefe. And you
remember the one? There was one last year. I forget which one it was. I think it was one of Biden's campaign staffers. He like you say, you're going to get rolled up in a honeypot by James O'Keefe, and you mean, somebody working for James O'Keefe is going to catch you in that honeypot, because that's one of his primary tactics for getting these undercover interviews is he's got reporters, he's got undercover reporters who go on dating apps, and you go on the government websites, you find you do your homework. You find the people that are in those organizations, and then O'Keefe's got just a staff of hot chicks and dudes that they go on the dating apps and they look for the government staffers and go on dates with them, and apparently these guys think they can bring a PowerPoint slideshow, prepared to sell for treason to the Chinese, and that'll help them get laid, because they show up and they just lay out everything. But dude, there was one last year. There was one last year that It was actually James O'Keefe that went on the date.
Yeah. No, those are my
But
favorite ones. Those are my favorite ones.
Yeah, he was pretending to be gay, and he put on the kind of feminized outfit, and had did his hair and wore a pair of like
it's better
sparkly
than that.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Man, I cannot think of a greater shame that you could suffer. The fact that O'Keefe is able to get these interviews at all.
Right.
Like if you work in the government, right, or for a big corporation, if you work anywhere that you might know anything that's sensitive, and you're suddenly on a date with a chick that is way too hot for you, that chick is James O'Keefe.
Or if you're on a date with a guy who is clearly James O'Keefe wearing some Clark Kent glasses, shame, son. Shame.
Yeah, shame. Yeah, that's another one. If you are in any of those sensitive positions, like the government at large, and I most especially the Democrat Party, I cannot believe that the Democrats have not done a better job of using one of the quarterly briefing roundups where you get briefed on sexual harassment and equal opportunity and cybersecurity, et cetera, et cetera. I can't believe one of those isn't a half-hour slideshow of James O'Keefe in various permutations of costume, disguise, and drag.
That should be a slide. It'd be like just a big image, okay, of James O'Keefe's face, and it's like, this is James O'Keefe. He is not your friend. Be on the lookout for.
You know what?
Yep.
We should just make that training video and deliver it to the government, and retire on the ad revenue generated by it being shown to 1,000 people every day. So okay,
it's time for somebody to get shot.
I can probably push to 8:30, but I've got a hard out at 8:30 because I've got a.
So do I.
Got a thing.
Can we do Adventures in Lady Cops? Can we?
Yes, Adventures in Lady Cops. Here you go, guys. Okay. This one, here we go.
I appreciate that. Oh yeah. Shit. You okay? Okay. Just put your hands on the top of the vehicle for me.
That's right. They pulled this guy over.
I appreciate that. Oh yeah. Oh shit. You okay? Put the gun down. Put the gun down. You okay? No. Hey, rescue 1068. Let's go. Rescue 1068. Hey, man.
Oh my God.
Go up with me.
I mean, she.
I give him credit. He's taking it like a champ. You know what I mean?
Sit down.
He's taking it like a champ.
He's not screaming. He's not hysterical. He's just.
Hey, he's not
he's just like, I won the ghetto lottery.
He does have a pistol on him.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Won the ghetto lottery.
Yeah. That little lady cop just bought that man's house.
So let me get, like, she is attempting to remove his weapon with her left hand, while in her right hand she's holding her service weapon, right? Which is clearly in the couldn't tell exactly what it was. It looks like it might be a Glock. But how do you do that? Like, it just, like, her brain sent the wrong signal to the wrong hand or something.
There's at least 3 or 4 cops there, right? Yeah. The guy's not resisting. He's not fighting, right? Yeah, we don't have the. Well, here, actually, I've got the story. Here's one for the Female Cop Hall of Fame. So let's see what it says about the what he's pulled over for. Okay, if you're pulled over by a lady cop, it's time to hunker down and crank up those survival instincts, because odds are you're about to become the victim of a whoopsie moment. We see it all the time. Female cops unable to handle the stress and danger of the job, buckling under pressure and either losing total control of the situation or accidentally discharging their weapons. Who hasn't seen a clip where a female officer gets the tables turned on her and ends up taken down by the perp? Most of the time, these situations escalate to the point where male bystanders have to step in and save the day. It's dangerous for everyone involved and puts the public at serious risk. We did a whole show the other day where we talked about why women don't belong in combat. And there's a lot to go on there with the difference in physicality. You're not talking about the average person when you're talking about soldiers. You're talking about the higher end extreme outliers, physically fit, mentally fit.
No, it's synaptic response time. Synaptic response time under stress.
Well,
that's the issue. That's what's different. Significantly different.
Mario, about a couple months after I got back from Afghanistan in 2011, I was tapped to run a few training sessions for the brigade, and this one was battalion level. So I ran a battalion level range, just basic rifle marksmanship range, and because the unit I was in at the time, Delta, we did our qualifier once a quarter instead of once a year. So we would do qualifications quarterly, and we would qual on the entire basic arsenal. So we would do the M14, or I'm sorry, the M4s or M16, depending on what your issued weapon was, your M9s, and we would even do like the Mark 19 and the Maw Deuce and the SAW and the 240 Bravo. We would even do quals on the AT4 with the dummy rounds, and those are fun, by the way. But we did every quarter, and so my group and we were tapped to do the battalion range. We're out there, and I end up with this black female. She was either a staff sergeant or a sergeant first class. I want to say she was an SFC, right? SFC. So we're talking somebody who's been in the Army for, at least 10 years. She didn't know which direction to put her magazine into her rifle.
That's a big yikes for me.
That should be the end of your career.
Yeah.
That's one of those things like, okay, if you cannot tie your shoes, I cannot hire you, and I cannot trust you to reliably pull the fries out when the timer dings.
Yeah.
There is a certain level. When the Army did comprehensive studies on the relationship between intelligence quotients and the competency of soldiers to serve. And they did not find what they were looking for. What they found was there's such a thing as a person who's too dumb to serve. Yeah, Waller says OODA loop failure. Yep. So we're going to inform you that yet another female cop DEI hire who accidentally shot someone has made the news. I was hoping to see. Okay, it was a traffic stop, right? So they're not chasing this guy down because he's some wanted criminal or whatever. What we're going to do is, just for my safety and your safety, I'm going to have you step out. One officer told Arrington, according to the officer's body cam video, we're just going to remove.
Oh, she shot him with his own gun. Okay.
And then we're going to run your license and make sure everything's good. Right? And anecdotally, it looks like you're more likely to be shot by a cop with your own weapon than you are by a criminal.
There you go. That's statistics you didn't even know.
Now, yeah. So I think we're good on that one. It's let's get a couple more of these in, and then I need to wrap it up because
that's fine.
We got to go to Augusta today. Got business to do on base.
Gross. Augusta is a beautiful golf course surrounded by the third world. You want to get, I know we've been optimistic.
We have at least three people who watch the show frequently who live in Augusta right now.
If the past couple of weeks have been inspiring. A lot of hope for the future. Okay, maybe even white pilling to some degree. You need to get black pilled instantly. Go to Walmart in Augusta. Okay, just take it in.
Okay. And like I said, we're a little thin on DGUs this week because, hey, bad weather is good for crime rates. Concealed carry holder shoots pot dealer who pulled a gun on him. I really wish Cameron were able to come on this morning because this is one of his.
It's his favorite. It's his favorite thing. It's his favorite anecdote.
I agree with him on this point. But let's look at the story. A concealed carry holder shot a man during an altercation on the south side last night. Told police it all started when his weed dealer pulled a gun on him. The alleged dealer remains hospitalized in police custody. So I haven't read the article yet, right? We try not to read the article ahead of time. But let me just say this. According to this story, what we've read already is the dealer pulled a gun on the citizen, right?
Mm.
The dealer pulled a gun on the citizen, and the citizen returned fire in self-defense.
Yeah.
And that should be the only factor involved in the argument. That, this was in Chicago, so I don't even know what the legality on pot is in Chicago right now. But let's just assume for a moment that it's 1993 and the pot is absolutely a crime and intent to distribute and all that stuff. So the guy buying pot from his dealer is currently engaged in a crime. Okay, maybe you charge him with the crime related to commerce.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of courts will try to call this felony murder if the pot dealer dies, not because it wasn't a justifiable self-defense, but only because it happened in connection with the commission of a crime, and that's just ludicrous. Even criminals, right? Like we said the other day, Epstein should have had his day in court. If the worst of us don't have civil rights, then none of us do.
Look, man, I mean, you know, and I know that bag was light. Okay, don't try to bullshit me. Trying to hand me a bag, telling me it's an eighth, and I know it. I know that shit's 2 grams. Don't play me. Okay, that's all you had to do.
Right.
Just had to, stop pinching people's sack. Sell them an honest bag. That in fact, it's probably more of a crime in Chicago to sell someone a light bag than to sell weed at all. It's
yeah, exactly. Real quick, I see a comment there from one of our favorites. I've had mine for so long that I don't know that anybody makes it, or I don't know that it's even available on the market anymore. But I'll drop a link. Alex says, it's that shitty holster he's got. No, God damn it. But I was going to say, here's a link.
I never liked the, I never carry a weapon where it's in the front, basically, pointing at my dick. I won't. Yeah, I never.
No, hell no.
I never.
No. Hip or kidney. So there's a link for one. This is a tuck holster. That's what I usually use for my revolver. And this one's for a subcompact 9mm. So make sure that you look at it and pick the right size for you. But you can go and pick up a decent one right there.
Yeah, I always just wear cargo shorts or cargo pants, not because they're fashionable, and I know that they're not. But I'm also 44, so I don't care. But I just like the inventory slots, so that's why I wear them, and I can safely carry a pistol.
Yeah. I ain't never found myself walking down a road fighting green slimes and looked at a bag of holding and said, "Nah, I don't need that one."
Yep.
So, okay. So, when in a media statement, Chicago police said a 30-year-old man was standing outside when he was involved in a verbal altercation with a male offender that was in a vehicle around 9:30 p.m. in the 7200 block of South Shore. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. Y'all are in froze-ass Chicago. You ain't south of nothing. When the 30-year-old saw that the other man had a gun, he pulled his own firearm and shot the other man in the chest, according to police. The injured man showed up at Jackson Park Hospital moments later. He was initially listed in fair condition. Officers at the scene said they saw a firearm inside his car. According to information from the scene, the concealed carry holder told police he was trying to buy some pot from the guy in the car when the dealer pulled a gun on him.
Okay, so we know that both individuals are black at this point, because only black people could shoot someone at point blank range and have them end up in fair condition.
God damn it, Mario.
Well, it's like there's a mass shooting, you know what I mean? And you look at the stats, and it's like 11 KIA, like 12 wounded in action, you know what I mean? And you're like, ooh, crazy white person. And then you look at the stats where it's like 2 dead, 30 injured. It's like, oh, it's a black guy.
Alex says he uses G-code holsters. Let's see.
Sorry, I did a racism. What you looking up?
Yeah, G-code holsters, and he's right. They're not cheap, but this is one of those things where, let me tell you something. I'm too broke to buy cheap. Everybody say it with me now. Say, I'm too broke to buy cheap.
Because I only want to buy it once.
Correct. It's damn, I wish Cameron was on this morning. It's the Vimes theory of boots. A poor man can only afford to spend what he can afford to spend on a pair of boots. A rich man will spend 5 times as much on a pair of boots. And the rich man will buy one pair of boots that'll last him the rest of his life. Even if he has to go back to the cobbler and have them resold or whatever, they can, they're solid, they're rugged, they're comfortable, they're good boots. The poor workaday man, he might go spend $50 or $100 on a pair of boots at Walmart, and he's got to buy another pair, around the same time he's got to replace the tires on his pick-em-up truck. Right? Well, so yeah, it's the Vimes theory of boots. It's absolutely worth it to spend a little more money on a quality product.
I apologize for my inadequacy in Cam's absence.
Yeah, well, you should read more Terry Pratchett.
I don't read books.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Do we have anyone else? Anyone else?
Let's. No, that's one we already did. Huh. This says viral video. Let me see if they've actually got the video. Okay, they've got the video. Okay, well, this one's from concealednation.com, and I've got it out of the reader mode so we can go watch the video. Apparently, the video is of a man drawing his weapon and pointing at a woman's face.
Oh,
so
cool.
instead of watching the video, instead of reading the article and talking about their opinion, let's watch the video and form our own opinion.
Hey! Oh!
He got a gun on her right now.
Hey, bro! Hey! Hey! Hey, man! Hey, don't do that, man! Get off her, man!
He's gonna wrestle and pop her. I beat the fuck, bro.
Hey, get that shit off.
Bro, I'm on, bro. I want to see it from my mama. Come on now.
Hey, get your motherfucking hands off her!
Oh. Okay,
Something tells me this might not be a defensive gun use.
Yeah, I don't think this qualifies as defensive gun use. So
this is menacing and brandishing.
For those of you who are concerned about our DEI policies here at the BFM, there's a clear example right there that a white man can in fact be wrong.
Yeah, and
Oh.
we celebrate diversity. We have Italians and Scots Irish and regular Irish, and yeah.
The confrontation, which quickly went viral on social media, highlights the dangers of escalating disputes and the severe consequences of misuse of firearms. Police responded around 8 p.m. on Tuesday after multiple calls reported a white male holding a black female at gunpoint at a gas station, a gas pump. The suspect, identified as, well, of course, because he's, oh my God, he's a white man, so of course they're going to go ahead and throw his name out there instead of just a description. But this is too good. The suspect, identified as 60-year-old Mark D. White, of course, was arrested at the scene and faces a litany of charges.
Central casting.
Now, I got two things here. Two things. You're looking at a video that's, and this is the danger with all video clips that you see on the internet. People don't start recording at the beginning of the altercation.
Correct.
Right? Now, I am not about to make a full-throated defense of this man's actions in this video. I'm not. But.
She before the camera started rolling. Yeah.
Something happened before he drew the weapon.
She did something to seriously provoke this man. Okay. Like, white people generally don't go from minor disagreement to pulling a gun out. Like, you have to go through the stages of white people anger where it's like, hey man, listen up, pal. All right, buddy. Like,
I'm not your buddy. I'm not
your pal.
I'm not your buddy, friend. I'm not your friend, brother.
Yeah, she this woman was, I mean, I guarantee at a bare minimum, she was outrageously disrespectful to that man. Okay. At a bare minimum. So, but.
And to be clear, that is not a defense of what he did there. Right. I can even imagine some scenarios where it would have been perfectly reasonable for him to draw the weapon. But him over there putting his hands on her, dragging her out of the car, putting the gun to her head, there's no way. There's nothing that she could have been doing short of having grabbed one of his grandchildren and thrown it in the back of her car. Right? So, there's almost nothing I can imagine that justifies grabbing her and pulling her out of the car with a gun at her head. That's a bad form story right there.
Yep.
But again, and this is an extreme example of it. Nobody starts recording at the beginning of the incident. They start recording when the incident gets bad enough that they think they've got a viral clip on their hands. Mm-hmm. Right? That's why you see more aftermath of car accidents than car accidents actually happening, right? And if you see a car accident actually happening, it's off a dash cam that was just on constant record the whole time.
Yeah. For example,
right? You don't get a whole lot of video of train derailments because who's filming the train, right? Who's running a camera when that happens?
Autistic people are filming trains. All right.
No, they're not. Because here's the thing, Mario. I know a little something about this because we did a film where we wanted some footage of a train for the film. And it turns out the schedules aren't published. It's very difficult to figure out when the train's going to run. So if you want footage of a train, you got to pick a spot and set up cameras and just
got to spend the day. You got to spend the day as a hobo, basically, to get that train footage.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to? You said it was a hard out at 8:30. If you want to call it.
Yeah, it's time to call it. So
I got to take the trash down before I miss the truck.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead and dip, Mario, and I'll handle the safety brief. Thanks for joining us this morning, brother.
Hey, make sure they drink water. Okay, I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah, hydrate.
Drink water right now. If you're listening to me, outrageous. All right, we'll see you next week.
Later, brother. All right, guys. Thanks for watching this week. Thanks for bearing with us and understanding about yesterday. We couldn't come on yesterday because of some back end issues with the studio. And life is hard mode. That's just something that happens. Now it's been snowing and cold basically everywhere. There are places in Florida that got 12 inches. We didn't get nearly that much snow in my yard, but we had enough for the kids to get out and throw snowballs at each other, which means there's enough snow out there that if you don't live in one of the frozen north states that just deals with it, you are surrounded by people who don't know how to deal with ice on the road. If the snow's all melted away in your area, y'all, it has barely peaked above freezing this week. If the snow has all melted away, that means that it has settled and puddled and frozen on the road, and the road wants you to die. Right? So y'all be careful out there. If you don't have to go anywhere, don't. Okay? So y'all be safe. Don't, sex, drugs, rock and roll, farm animals, and videotape. No two at the same time. Thanks for watching. We love you, and we will see you on Monday.